What? You don't want to say welcome?
No, you always say welcome.
Oh, well. Okay, happy Monday. Welcome to Weird Vibes. Thanks for coming back. Today we are with Don and Charlie from Syracuse.com, and we just want to kind of talk about the food scene in Central New York. We got a lot going on these past couple of weeks, so.
We love talking about it. We sure as hell like writing about it.
Yeah.
So maybe guys can talk about how you got to Syracuse, what got you here, how long you've been here, and why you stay here.
It was a bus for him and a train for me.
So he's first.
I've been here 36 years. I'm from New Orleans originally, went to Missouri for school, got a job in Chicago, and then somehow we ended up in beautiful upstate New York in the mid-'80s. So.
Yeah, but you did a lot before you did food.
Oh, yeah. I was a political writer, political editor, and I'm much, much happier writing about food.
I was going to say,
food,
would you rather
beer,
talk
and
about food now or politics now?
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of food writing that I do that involves politics, but
Yeah, I feel like it's gone now.
But why? All those places to somebody like me or even Michele, you spent our whole lives here in Syracuse. I love upstate New York.
Yeah,
I love
so
Syracuse.
do
But you've been all these other places. Why? It doesn't seem like Syracuse. If somebody said you could live in New Orleans, you could live in Chicago, you could live in. Why Syracuse?
even though I grew up in New Orleans, is a great place. I wanted to see other places, but really the reason we ended up here is because my wife got enrolled at SU for graduate school, and I found a newspaper job here. We didn't expect we'd be here for 36 years, and yet here we are. So
Is that how long you've been with them? 36 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I came a year later, so I've been here 35 years. And I did 9 years covering breaking news, like police and fire and all that stuff. And then I ran the sports department for like 20
right.
some odd years. Yeah, I don't know anything about sports. I gamble on them. I can't play them. And then like 5 years ago, the former sports editor who I had replaced asked me to do this, what they called at the time, a best of CNY job, where you pick what you really like and you write about it. And I turned him down 3 times. And I know, I still can't believe I would ever say no to this job. And finally, on one Saturday afternoon, it was St. Patrick's Day, when my wife and everyone was going around doing a pub crawl, I had to keep coming home and intercepting stories and photographs from the state high school basketball tournament. And I said, what the hell am I thinking? So I go into work on Monday. I go to my boss and say, hey, or who became my boss. Again, I said, so you want me to go around, eat and drink, and you're going to pay me for it and pick up the tab? He said, yeah, absolutely.
Deal.
So I've been doing it ever since.
But was this? I still read the paper.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the .com guy.
Yeah.
To look at them, I have to touch and feel the paper.
Yeah.
I stare at her when I say
A
that.
.com guy. You're so just.
So old.
Yeah.
But I like the feel of the paper. Like I open it up, I do the Sudoku every day. I do that. I've read that paper since I can remember reading, and I don't remember back in the day that it was always big on food and that stuff.
You know what, buddy? It was.
We had a food section, and for the best job I ever had was about 12, 15 years ago. That's all I was. I was the food and drink editor, writer. We had the Wednesday paper was the food section, and I did a centerpiece story I did recipes, I did food, restaurants is really only a part
I remember
of it.
the recipes.
Yeah, the recipe swap. I coordinated that for a couple of years. It was fun. Unfortunately, recipe stories, I think we mentioned this last time, now that we can see, and it's a bad thing sometimes, when you can see what stories get page views and what stories don't, a story with a recipe that says, here's the recipe, gets nothing.
Well, why would you? If I want to know how to make beef stroganoff, I just Google it.
You Google it and you get Bon Appetit, you get this and that. So so we morphed away from really 10 years ago when I was writing about food to now more writing about restaurants and business and stuff like that.
And Don and so he's from New Orleans, I'm from Indiana, where they don't know how to cook, except for maybe steaks and
they got the greatest pork tenderloin
sandwich
in the world, man.
But that's it. You're not going to find a good pizza. You're not going to find. You're sure as hell not going to find chicken wings.
Biscuits and gravy.
It's great. That's one of the best sandwiches I ever had in my whole life.
And I would agree with that, Bud. But that's about it, man.
Oh my God!
They're like this big.
It's huge
on a little bun, just like your fish and chips out here.
Yeah.
You have a big piece of haddock on a little bun.
Yeah.
They pound out a pork tenderloin and oh my God, breaded. It's amazing.
But like Don said, so I'm not from here. I figured I'd stay here a year, but then I I ended up going to grad school at Newhouse and then just kept going. And I fell in love with the place. But the food scene here is really good.
I think so,
Yeah.
too.
And it keeps the two of us so busy. We are always busy.
Yeah.
I mean,
How do you get your stories? Personal?
You leak us information.
no, we
Hey, there's a new place opening. No.
no, see, that's the thing. People around here love to talk about it, and now
Yes.
with the .com,
Yeah.
people. It's a two-way conversation. People can reach out to us very easily. My phone number's on every story I write,
Yeah,
and
I
they can
see that,
text
yeah.
me, and they can email us, they can call us. We hear from people every
Right.
day, and then obviously Facebook. People say, "Well, you got to. Oh, I just went to this new restaurant, the Brasserie. You got to check this out." Okay, and then we'll check it out a few times, or he'll write about. He'll find trends in the market. So
How do you filter out what? Because I feel like if you, like you said, it's a two-way conversation, and people probably just send you their ideas all the time. But let's be
Sure.
realistic, half of them probably aren't.
Yeah, I mean,
Great. Like,
it's-
how do you filter what ones you're going to pick?
I mean, it's just a matter of there's only so many hours in a day, and so you can only do certain things. And with Charlie, what he does when he's doing those things like the First Look or the Hidden Gem, they have to meet a bar. He's got an internal bar. They have to meet a
Oh,
bar
okay.
for it.
Okay.
I'm
gotcha,
doing
yeah.
more of a news story, so that's just old fashioned journalism. Is this newsy or not?
Yeah.
right.
I had a guy, I'm not gonna say who it was, but I had a guy pitch a story to me last week. It's the kind of thing that 10 years ago, I might have written a little item on it, but in today's news world, it's like, that's not gonna cut it. So,
What was can you say what the story
it
was?
was a restaurant that got, how you get an allotment of a bourbon barrel. He went to a
right,
distillery
yeah.
in Kentucky, got a barrel, and he was gonna have a big thing with the bourbon barrel at his place. I might have written that up 10 years ago. But now a lot
I
of people
think
are
I
doing
heard
that.
that story.
Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like-
yeah.
Everybody's
Well,
doing it now, so it's
yeah.
not
I
it's
mean-
not news
Not
anymore.
news.
It depends because, too, with social media, like that's very easily just like a post on social media where,
Yes.
Post with us too.
yeah, and then to write a full story on it, I guess, is probably there has to be
I mean,
more
maybe
in-depth
10 years ago
details.
it would have been unusual. Maybe it was one of the first to do it, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. That's an interesting concept." But now, every liquor store has got an allotment of barrels.
Oh,
every,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
The
that's-
liquor store right down there got they did about a barrel of Knob Creek not too
Yeah.
long ago.
The liquor store near my house has
didn't know that.
got an allotment of Sazerac rye, which I drink a lot of, and I think I'm the only person going to the store and buying these bottles every week.
So you got the Don allotment, yeah.
But we talk about everything. Like, all right, hey, this restaurant's going to close. This one's going to, and we go back for, well, I know that person, so he'll do it, or I'll do it. We feed off of each other, but we also, I think, have a good idea of what Central New York wants to read, and the type of food. I mean, people here have very wide tastes. So, I mean, food from all over the world you can find here, and introduce people to it, and I think the readers appreciate that. So you can always find decent.
One thing we asked, we had John Mannion in. We're fans of John because he's been very vocal in his support for us, being independent restaurants. We had one with Ryan McMahon, who's been a huge supporter of, and they've made themselves available, which like you guys have. If we've had something or a need or whatever, we reached out and you guys have made yourself available. But one of the downsides of that is Ryan has a new celebrity, right? Because he's been very forward-facing to the whole last 2 years. John Mannion, I mean, in politics, you're forward-facing. And they have comments or stories or stuff that they do, same as you do. How do you handle the negative? You didn't have the negative 20 years ago when you just wrote a newspaper article, but now, do you read the post? Do
No,
you
we
read the,
believe in let me change that. We did get negative. It might have been a handwritten note. When I was
on your car or something?
Oh my God,
I
phone
got
call.
one. So we just got a handwritten letter to the Brasserie, no return address, no signature, no nothing, about
compliment or
a complaint.
oh my
Yeah,
God.
I was like, "What?" My mom was like, "Read this." I'm like, "What is this?" I didn't like. I've never. It's all.
Probably from the restaurant down the, probably from Red.
It's a
I
letter. They
used-
come in
I
the
used to
mail,
have-
Michelle.
I know. I'm like, "What is
when I was
that?"
the political editor, it was in the 90s, early 2000s, and we had a U.S. senator from New York who was a little bit of a lightning rod. I don't think I need to name the name.
No, you don't. Yeah,
And
no,
there was a guy who just hated her and would write long letters. And I remember the one time he wrote a long letter, and then he sealed up the envelope and then continued to write on the outside of the envelope.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
So you get negatives. We've always got it. It's just now it's more instant.
But how do you handle
Facebook.
it when you? I mean, look, everybody wants to think they do a good job. How do you handle somebody saying something negative about your restaurant, which is part of your family? How do you?
It depends on what the legitimacy of it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really. I mean, that was their experience. If they came in here and they felt like they had a bad experience, that matters. So we talk it over with the team, and then
Well,
we
I
make
think when it's
But
when
it's different. That's my negative feedback is different than.
Well,
it's
I feel like
personal
that-
with you guys.
it
like
is.
that.
So
It's
I have
Charlie sucks or whatever.
no, we can take that. You know what? So last week I wrote a story about adult-friendly pumpkin patches and apple orchards.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay, and the whole reason for doing that is suddenly, apple orchards and pumpkin patches are serving local beer.
Yeah.
And
Local
they're-
cider.
and
They're
local
making their
cider.
own,
They're
and-
making more money. Yeah. And it's allowing these farms to expand, these family-owned farms to expand and do even more. But I just said, one day I was just joking. My wife and I were out, and I said, God, can I swear on you?
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
I
Fuck
said,
yeah.
okay.
My dad doesn't like when I
said,
swear, though.
I said, God damn it, Ellen, why didn't this shit exist when our kids
God,
were little?
yeah.
Because our youngest now is in college, okay? 2 others are out of the house. Yeah. And I remember, and listen, love my kids very much, but
Trudging through, looking at pumpkins
exactly,
and-
for hours. I thought, shit, boy, that would have been nice. So I pitched to my boss. I said, hey, I'm going to do the story. And it turned out fine. All the places loved it. I think it was just 7 or 8.
Well, I can
Is
tell
8
you,
of them.
clearly, when I saw the headline, I was not thinking the same line that you were thinking. When you said adult, I thought there was a
you're
whole
thinking-
nother road you were
Oh,
going
for
down.
fuck's
Jesus.
sake!
I thought,
Bud.
what the hell is
Yeah,
going
get
on?
your
at
mind
these
out of the
pumpkin
gutter.
No,
places?
but see what happened with that story is all the teetotalers out there
Yes.
got on his case, like you're promoting
Really?
drinking,
Right.
And I-
my God.
The worst, I got this letter, and I forget her name.
Like a real letter.
Oh, no, it was an email.
An email,
Well,
okay.
that's a real letter
It's a real
these
letter
days.
to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry you had to suffer through all those years with taking your kids to pumpkin
my
patches.
God.
I remember those days fondly, and I value I treasure my family. Da, 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 da. I'm so sorry you had to suffer." So I did write her back, but
Well, that was my next
I hit-
question. Do you reply to these people?
I reply to everyone, and even every
You
negative.
guys are different though. You reply a lot.
He does. I mean, not all the time. Well, you do, but
Sometimes.
I respond, and when I hit this, there's a little trick I learned. I hit the reply button, and I force a smile on my face. I said, "Hey, dear," well, I want to say whoever the fuck you are. No, I said, "Dear so and so, thank you for taking the time to write. I really appreciate feedback. I will have you know, yes, I had a lot of fun with that story. My wife and I did it together, and now my kids who are old enough, they even joined us on some of the visits. But I respectfully disagree. I did treasure all those moments taking my kids to the apple orchard, but I do wish I could have had a cider, which I often did at the end of the day. And I said, but thank you for thinking of us. And I even sent a picture. I found a picture from 2005, maybe, when my youngest was 2,
cool.
of us at Beacon Skiff, when Beacon Skiff was just apple orchards and, the hayride and apple fritters and pony rides. And, sincere.
But people got to realize that
Cheers,
shit
Charlie
changes,
Miller.
Yeah,
right?
well,
It
let me just,
evolves.
I just want to say too about, I don't respond to everybody. If somebody doesn't like what I write, it's fine.
It doesn't bother you.
But the one thing I do always respond to is when they say, how come you never cover X? And if I can say, okay, here's the 45 times I've covered X.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of that. People unfortunately, it's probably always they read a headline, they don't read the story,
They don't read the story.
Yeah.
or they only see one story and they missed. How come you're not writing about how the restaurant revitalization fund was messed up? Well, we did 5 stories on
Yeah, a
that
bunch of
last year.
stories
Yeah.
about that.
So, I get that today. Why? How come you didn't cover this from the get-go? Well, we did.
Right.
So those are the ones I tend to respond to. And I don't do it in a mean-spirited way, but it's, hey, you may have missed the 45 stories we did
Yeah.
about that.
That's the challenge I would have is even, in your shoes, at least when somebody comes in here and they have a not so great experience and they have a critique about the
Right.
experience, at least they can, if I'm in your shoes and they say, my waitress, my waiter, my bartender, the hostess. Okay, but if they say Chrissy, Hannah, it becomes personal,
Right.
and I want to defend those people because I know those people to be good people. I think I'm a good person. I think I've told you we do that Breakfast Club thing,
Right.
which has been amazing. People are still critical of it. Look, I'm not making any money. It costs me money.
How could people be critical of that?
Oh my God, you should tip the cooks, man. Why not? The cooks are the ones that make the food. I would never pay unless you gave money to the cooks. Look, we give money to the restaurant. They divide it anyway. I had a great, one of my buddies, Brian, who's part of that, who's been really impactful in it. He had a great response for somebody one time. He said, hey, I love your idea. Tell us when you start the Breakfast Club for cooks. And we'll come to every one of your events and we'll donate. Until you do that.
That's a good response.
Which is a great response. I didn't think of it, but.
Well, that's a
It's-
good response.
I have this overwhelmingly need to be liked, so it's hard for me.
So, and I mean,
hard for me.
Don and I have
I do.
Don and I have thick skin. We do because we've been journalists for so long, and the vitriol out there is obviously a lot worse. But I answer everyone, and it's funny because when you do answer them, so thanks for writing. I hear what you're saying, but this is what I found, and then they either shut up or they flip and they say, "Oh, that's a good. That's a good reason." I had one the other day bitching about chicken wings. The wings, the price of wings are wholesale below what they were pre-pandemic, but bars and restaurants are still charging a lot of money. And all these people they're throwing politics in it. And I said, well, it really has nothing to do with politics, not directly, but the price of oil is doubled or tripled, and
Payroll costs,
operating costs, and packaging.
Yeah.
And the person who wrote the original mean-spirited numbers said, oh, yeah, good point. Thanks.
Yeah. I think sometimes people with negative things just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And so it's good to respond. The only issue that I have with the posts is that if they haven't talked to the restaurant or the manager or the whatever first, because it's so much easier to have a two-way conversation and come to a resolution when you're having a two-way conversation rather than just going and behind a keyboard.
It's rare. I think I told you we had one of our podcasts, I believe, and I have a friend who I met through the Breakfast Club thing who happens to be a district manager for a multi-unit chain locally. Super nice guy.
Oh, yeah. I never even asked you about that.
And I got a text from him saying, hey, bud, I listened to all your podcasts. I love them. I have a question. Can you give me a buzz when you get a minute? Sure. So I called him up, and he said, hey, I just want to let you know, one of the things I'd always talked about was, hey, independent restaurants are part of a community. When something happens, you need stuff, you go to the independents. And because there's a Nora and a Michele at the Brasserie or a Danny at Wildcats or a Chris Sest at the In-Between, there's not a Mr. Olive Garden, Mr. Applebee's, Mr. whatever. And so kind of dissing him. So he called and he said, hey, bud, I just want to let you know, whether you're aware of it or not, but we give millions of dollars a year. If somebody comes into one of his stores and they need something, they give. So do Applebee's, so do these chain restaurants. And he's right. And I was taken back because he was 100% right. And I wrote back on my Facebook and put back, hey, I'm sorry. I just talked to this person, blah, blah, blah. And that was so much better of a conversation than it would have been just to blast me.
Right.
More people should do that.
Right.
They should just take a minute.
Yeah.
And before you hit the send
Go.
button, force the
Smile.
smile.
Yeah.
Force
Go.
the smile.
Yeah.
So.
My wife's an English teacher, and when she gets a nasty note from a parent, which is frequent, that's what she takes a second.
Where's she teach?
West Genesee Middle School. Right.
Oh,
around-
nice,
Right.
nice.
Right down the street there.
Yeah, nice.
So
How so she's 6 to 8 grade?
She teaches 6th grade English. She's certified for K through 6. And she taught.
How'd she manage the last? So 6th graders at least. Boy, that's probably one of the groups that probably got hit the most. Yeah. Because that's when you're growing and need more than ever to be introduced to socializing.
Right.
I mean, you saw the stories today, how bad the testing.
It's bad.
Yeah.
So my wife teaches at SU. She teaches writing to college kids, and the new freshmen this year, essentially their whole high school careers were COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
And I teach there too. I teach freshmen and sophomores, and I mean, they're very happy to be there.
So you're both married to English majors.
Yeah.
Do you ever get criticized? Like you come home and you go, Don,
No,
for
because
Christ's sakes, you
first of all,
spelled this wrong.
Charlie's wife started working at the paper. That's
where I
you
met her.
Oh, wow.
So and my wife also has a journalism degree. She never worked here. But
They never been
so
critical
they-
of like, hey, I don't think you,
Well,
you know,
wait,
that would
see,
be
my
tough.
wife's never been critical.
See, my wife edits my stuff. I mean, she
my God, that's
she
hilarious.
oftentimes
Yeah.
will be the last set of eyes
That
before
is funny.
I send it to.
That's pretty funny.
I mean, yeah.
So what are you guys seeing out now? We see
Yeah.
a lot on our side of things. What are you hearing or seeing from restaurant owners?
Well,
Are they still feeling pain?
there's a lot of stress about staff, about food costs, all that stuff, and a lot of stress about customers who don't get it and berate waitresses, and so you see a lot of that. And you're seeing smaller menus, you're seeing shorter hours.
Yeah.
I'm working on a story about the Westcott Street Business District and what's changing there. And one of the things that people are pointing out, and this is true everywhere, it's true in New York City, nothing's open at midnight.
Yeah, I was just going to
Yeah.
ask that. 10 o'clock at night, shit shuts down.
Forget it,
There was a headline in New York Times about a month ago that says, "For the city that never sleeps, now the restaurants close at 11."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
and it's for all those reasons.
There's still places like bars, like up on the hill, you go to Harry's or Margarita's
Sure.
is open. There's,
Swallows it keeps their kitchen
Yeah.
open till
Yeah.
midnight or 1, and Chelsea's does that on weekends.
Angry Garlic, he always has
Right.
late night business.
Limp
He's gonna-
Lizard, I
Limp
think.
Lizard, yeah.
Don's right, and yeah, you see the angst in dealing with customers and staff. But I also, on the other side, I see a lot of creativity among
Yes.
restaurant owners. And like when you and I spoke the other day about that story about the Spada restaurant closings, I think the places are trying really, really hard to adjust, to come up with new concepts. And like we discussed, there's more restaurants opening up that are different than anything we've had before.
Yes.
And I think those places, I think that gets the public excited. It's new places to try. I mean, like your place here, the Brasserie.
yeah, this was
It was different. It was so different. But that was before COVID. It was just a different vibe. It was a different approach to dining and drinking, and which I loved. And I see more of that. But the same old is
You gotta
same
change
old,
it out.
old,
you got to
old.
change. But there's always a double edge to that too, because you get a
people
beloved
like to
old
change.
place that, I got a lot of calls from people who are going to really miss Kirby's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are every place that's the other thing. People will always say this, how did that place stay open for 30 years? It sucks. Well, obviously if it stayed open for 30 years,
suck.
it didn't suck all the time. And some people like it,
But Dick's 81 years old.
Yeah.
Dick
Right.
Sepp's 81 and
living
his-
in North Carolina.
Yeah,
and,
and he's a character. I'm sure you guys
course.
have met
Yeah,
Dick.
yeah.
Of course we
He's a
have.
character and a half, man. I met him with his partner, what's the guy's name that runs all the restaurants for him? I can't remember his name.
yeah.
I met them in Syracuse, probably 8-9 years ago at the Kirby's in Westvale.
Mm-hmm.
And we were hanging out, and Dick's like, hey, we're going to grab a car and go drinking. End up at the Turning Stone. Come with us. I'm like, look, man, I can't just, I'm married, man. I can't just get in the car and go drinking.
Why? I
with you
do.
guys. Yeah, oh my gosh. So I have to ask my wife. And You know?
Yeah, I was
But
just down there. They said
that also,
they're the busiest they've ever been.
Of course, because
Kirby's
they're
is?
closed.
Yeah, I was just I
well,
was
Trying to
that's
get their
another
last
thing.
birthday steak dinner.
I think
Yeah.
we talk about
Redeeming the gift
we could
cards.
talk about why restaurants are closing, and the thing that I want to say about that right now is yes, there is a line going through. We know inflation, staffing, all these things are real. Post COVID, all that stuff, and yet, and this is what we try to do in the story we did the other day. So those are real issues, and then in each individual case, there's something individual.
Oh, yes,
about it.
yeah.
So in Richard Zebb's case, his sons, they don't want any
want
part of
that
it.
shit.
So he doesn't have anybody to leave it to.
Yeah.
In the case of Mello Vello, they got a growing family, got new babies on the way. You know what? We can't keep running a restaurant and do that at the same time. So every case has a different story.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean there's not that overall staffing, inflation,
Right.
everything putting pressure. It's just there's that plus the individual case.
But I think each one of these stories, though, is ultimately might have a different end because someone could come in and run the kitchen at Mellow.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what
And
they're
I
looking
think
for, yeah.
Peachtree is going to find another.
He'll find another spot.
I wouldn't be surprised if he already has.
Yeah, his
It
problem
would
was
be
more.
a great spot for him. My son lives. Did I tell you this? Where the great spot was?
no.
So a la mode Jean used to do a really good job over there.
Yep.
Maybe she got a little tired. She was there a while. She wasn't there as much as maybe she could have been. But that spot right there kills.
Yeah.
All the SU students go over there.
And the parking lot's a lot more manageable.
Way
that was
bigger.
one of the worst parking.
He
That
did
I think
well.
is the worst
He'll
parking lot of all.
100% find another spot.
Of course it will. Of course he will. I gotta wonder if that spot's even big enough because
Really? Yeah, he could-
he was so busy. But it was a takeout place.
Well, that's the big piece too. When you pre-COVID, what percentage of business did you do
Like
it to go?
5%.
What today?
We're back to mainly in-house. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really?
But,
Because
but we're different because a lot of our business is based on the experience that you have here and the drinks that you get here. We're
Right.
not, I mean, our food is great too. I have a great kitchen staff, but like, it's not people,
It's not sandwiches to go.
yes,
Right.
it's not like
your
take
menu isn't
home.
maybe conducive for.
It's most certainly not.
Yeah.
No
Cassone's-
offense, I would just
No,
never
it's
consider
it's
thinking of
not
here
because
getting
you
takeout.
no people do get takeout and maybe we're
I'm
up
sure.
to 10%, but it's more about coming to the bar and having a good cocktail and like our orange
Well, the cocktail thing is what you push a lot as well.
Yeah.
So,
And they have Miller Lite on draft.
yes, which is nice. No Schaefer, but
I like Schaefer.
Yes. Not many places you can buy Schaefer. But a lot like Tassone's is a good example of a place that, and you guys had to pivot. You talk about making changes. Hey, if there's any positive to come out of COVID is it made restaurants look at their business model and say, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
This maybe wasn't even going to last as it was. Do we really need to be open for lunch? No, it's not profitable. So they close for lunch. And do we really need to be open till 12 o'clock? No, it makes sense to close at 10 o'clock because of staffing, whatever, and they're more profitable.
Right. I do hope you reopen for brunch.
We are. Our soft opening is in a couple weeks, so I'll
Nice.
let you guys know,
Nice.
and then we'll be open for the
That-
grand opening.
that was-
so. But this
I
is
loved their brunch here.
so. This is what they did good. So what we did is we cut down to 5 days a week because I wasn't going to ask any of my staff to work more than 5 days. I just wasn't going to do it. It was too crazy. You have to retain staff, and then my kitchen staff came to us and said, we're ready to do brunch again.
Nice.
So
Wow, that's cool.
I'm like, that's awesome. It's great that we're able to offer that because we literally get people every single day asking for our brunch back.
Michelle,
There's nothing.
there's fewer and fewer places that do it. And then the few that do have
Mm-hmm.
brunch or are open on Sunday, they're just so busy you can't even.
Right.
And I think that there's like, even in this area, we were talking about it because we're strategizing and all that fun stuff. There's a lot of diners and even places that have alcohol, it's still a different, like we offer something different.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
a bar, not a diner. But do you feel, because I guess when I was before COVID, the restaurant industry was extremely competitive. And then there was like a lot of places that didn't make it. It was the stereotype that if you made it past a year and then the 5 years, the milestones. Do you feel like we're almost getting back into that? Or no, it's that extra pressure. It's more,
One of the things that I tried to do the first year after COVID was I truly tried to do a numerical story that said, has the churn rate been faster
Yeah.
in COVID than it was before? But as you say, as you know,
Yeah,
the
it's-
restaurant industry has always been volatile. It's always open,
Yes.
close, open, close, open, close.
Yeah.
Always will
It's
be.
really hard to say whether there's. Sometimes it seems the last couple of weeks, it seems like, oh my
Yeah.
God, we have a bunch right now. But at the end of the year, will we have had more closings this year than we did
I
5
was
years
saying,
ago?
like you said, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
I don't.
You know,
I just think the extra pressure of the things that post COVID have put on the restaurant industry. I mean, I feel like I don't know, but let's just take Melville for an example. With a growing family, it's you could figure out a way to do it, but you're like with all of these other things, it's just too like I'm just
well, and again,
Yeah.
that particular case is so different from anything else because they also have a side business.
yes, yes, and I don't know anything
can
about
rely
their
on that
personal.
side business.
Yeah,
well, and
Way
Yes,
and that's
yes.
way more margin
Yeah.
on that side of the business.
Yeah,
and that's
good
what we
point.
talked about
Right.
is it worth 70 hours a week when you get
Exactly.
done and you make 2 cents on the dollar? I tell people all the time, I have a good friend, I think I told you, a good friend who's looking to open a place that was closed. And he's going to lease it, which is not the best strategy to start with. Lease and depending on where you are, it's better to own the dirt in a lot of places. And he has no experience. He's a person that likes to party and been out partying, and he's going to try to take this place over. And I'm trying to tell him,
I know
look,
exactly.
man,
I know exactly.
if you've got $100,000 that you want to put into a restaurant to try to run it, put it in the stock market.
Yeah.
You're going to make more money.
Way more money
a
sitting
lot
on your
less
ass
stress.
at home, watching Netflix and eating potato chips than you are running a business. You're going to lose friendships. You're going to lose family. It's toxic to your soul. So, but you made a good point I hadn't thought of. We talk about numbers. What did COVID do? COVID, maybe was it politics? Was it COVID? Was it a combination? Costs are up. Supply chain's up. It is harder. Payroll costs are up. All these challenges that restaurants are having. Staffing is tight. So what are people doing? Oh, they're changing their menu. They're changing their hours. All those things work. But I think, man, from all the people I talk to, one of the reasons that the places are going to make it and stay on and be successful is something Michele kind of brought up. She closed for her staff's sanity, and her staff came to her and said,
Yeah,
can we please
want
be
to-
open?
We want to keep going.
If you don't have a relationship with your staff, where'd you go yesterday?
We went to Three Lives, so I took 3 of my kitchen guys out
What
for
a fun time.
brunch
Yeah.
at Three Lives.
You do that kind of stuff. You have to have a culture where it's not, and I don't want to name names, but there's some legacy restaurant owners that are like, look, I own the restaurant. You get paid by me. You're my bitch. And that doesn't work anymore, man.
Right, because they're going to lose them.
There's a restaurant we all know. I won't
Yes,
name the name.
yes.
No, this is a positive one. And all know in Armory Square.
Yes.
We all go there. The chef's been there for 30 years. The head bartender's been there for 30
Yeah.
years. Or, however many years, 25 years. The staff never leaves that place.
No.
The staff never
But they
leaves that
treat their
place.
staff so
Because
well.
because they're
Yeah,
great
yeah.
people
But-
there. Yeah.
But so many of these staffs, and that one included, they will on a Monday night take their coworker or their workers out to a place that is open on Monday.
Yes.
They'll take them to Prime. They'll take them to Three Lives. Dan Seeley does it
All the time, yeah.
and Chelsea's they take their employees out at least twice a year for a really really nice.
And what's it cost? I
right.
talked to Danny one time at Wildcats, and once a month he tries to take people out. He's a big Turning Stone kind of guy.
Yeah.
He likes to go there. He took like anybody who wanted to go to the Turning Stone, and he gave them all. I think it was like $50 in chips, and he bought their dinner and drinks and stuff. I said, Dan, what are the costs? He's got 25 people. Probably cost him a couple $1,000.
Right.
What's a couple $1,000
To retain that
If I
staff.
could tell a restaurant owner today that's having staffing issues, hey, if you have $3,000, I can guarantee your people aren't going to leave for a year.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen
Yeah.
is those people that are in the kitchen, they're going to have a tough day that you just took to Three Lives.
Yeah.
They're going to have a tough shift in the next couple of weeks, and they're going to go, this sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. I can't quit because Michele just took me to brunch.
Well, that's
You
not
know?
why I want them. But,
but they-
yeah,
but they show you care.
Well, it's
It's also
their
good team building.
it's
Yes,
it's their restaurant too, because I always say, and for the people that are like, you do this and I tell you to do it and do it. If they say, okay, I'm not doing it, I can't run this restaurant by myself. I can't cook all the food, seat the people, run the bar. So you have to have a team. So people have to feel like they're part of a
You're not
team.
doing any of that?
No, I don't.
didn't
I
think
just
so.
like
I've never
sit
seen
and
you
drink 12 cups of coffee at the end of the bar. But yeah, I just think
Except during
it's,
Oktoberfest, she drinks steins of beer. I know. 'Cause-
Man,
Yeah.
were you here for Oktoberfest?
No, I missed it. I wanted to, but
I came there, both her and Pat were dressed up, and I still tell you, I looked at Pat and I'm like, I can tell that Michele had to go and get this outfit. I looked at Pat and I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I feel like, I don't know for sure, but
He had it
I feel
already.
like you had that fucking outfit in your closet
I'm sure he
waiting
did.
to come out.
he was in
pretty
his
funny.
element. So it was our first year that we did it, and our first time that we did a parking lot party. And it was his first time that we've ever worked together. So he was like nervous, but then the day got started and he was like in his, the lederhosen
Oh
or
my
whatever. He
God.
was so happy. He was like, this is the best thing ever.
That's
but
awesome.
Give him a job.
okay, I don't know about
That'd
all
be
that.
cool.
That'd be a lot, but
Oh, I got questions that I like to
But
go ahead.
back to your point. I mean, I think what Michele is saying, it goes a long way, and I think that's how a lot of these places are going to survive with staffing. I mean, all these issues, they're going to come and go, and then they'll come back. I mean, the supply chain is going to get fixed.
Yes,
And the
Yeah.
prices, they're already coming down on certain things now. Others are going up, but that's always going to be the case. But a smart restaurant owner is going to weather that storm and adjust where necessary, and that's how.
The good places are going to be. And there's a really smart guy, the only guy I know that's smarter than me in this space, who I talk to a lot and go to for guidance. And he made a good point when COVID started. He said, hey, bud, and you worry, but he said, look, what this is going to do is if there's 300 restaurants now, when it all comes out, maybe there's 200 restaurants, maybe there's 225, and the 75 people that didn't make it for whatever reason, some maybe it just couldn't make it, some maybe they didn't know what they were doing, but now there's the same amount of people coming out, and there's just 225 restaurants, so everybody's going to be busier. I
Right.
hope to see that
That's a
happens.
good point.
Do you have questions?
I do.
I wrote mine down.
Yeah, I just want to
I'm
talk
very
about.
organized.
I got it on my phone. This is a
Oh.
phone. It's yeah.
That's how
phone,
you
that's
get. That's
what
how
you
you get the .com.
Yeah.
That's why you talk to people on that,
we're
right?
living in a digital world, but I don't know where you
This
Yeah.
is, I can't, if I don't have yellow pad of paper, I'm done.
I don't think I've ever seen you without that.
Yes.
So my question is, I think we talked about this a little bit before, but when restaurants recognize that you're there eating or drinking, how do they treat you? Do you feel like they treat you differently?
Yes.
Do you get recognized
I mean-
facially?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
mean, yes, and I think we did talk about this last time. So it can be awkward sometimes. I mean, if I go to Kitty Hoynes, David Hoynes going to come up.
Yeah, well, of
and,
course.
yes.
Yeah, but there we're always treated the same, and we're treated like everybody else.
Yes, I was about to say that's a bad
yeah,
example
that's a
because
good
David
point,
Hoyne
good
treats
point.
everybody good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it can be awkward. We're not critics. We're not.
Right.
I'm not there to say, boy, your burger really sucks today. So and I think we talked about this. Sometimes a owner particularly will maybe try to give us something, and I'll tell you this. I know I told this story last time, and I'll tell this. This is a great story. I love it. Aunt Josie's,
Yes. Oh my gosh, great place.
and the woman who was running it then was Aunt Josie's niece or something. Her
What was
aunt
the
really was.
son's name there?
Boy, I can't remember now.
God, I remember him.
He
but-
kind of ran the bar more, and,
Yeah,
and so classic looking older Italian lady. I'm there with a photographer, and we're doing a story, and she wants us to go home with a big thing of Aunt Josie's
course,
special,
of course.
and we're like, no, we can't take them, and the photographers used to get this a lot, and they got really practiced that no, we can't do it, it's not allowed, blah blah. We'll lose our jobs if we take this. Blah, blah, blah. And this photographer was of Italian extraction too.
Yeah.
So eventually, this old lady is just being an old Italian. No, you got to take the.
Yeah.
So we're at Aunt Josie's. We're making our way to the door. She gets up, and she doesn't look like she could move fast, but boy, she makes a beeline in the kitchen. And by the time we get out the door in the parking lot, she goes into the kitchen, out the parking lot, around the door, and when we open the door to get out, there she is
she is
with
with the
two
food.
Aunt
Oh my
Josie
gosh,
specials.
yes,
And
nice.
this photographer, Steve Kennarelli, looks at me and says, I have a bunch of old Italian aunts like this. You can't tell them no. Just
Yeah.
take the food.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't like that. I don't come here because I want Michele to give me something for free.
No,
I don't
Yeah.
want free.
we don't. We
I
pay.
mean, if somebody wants to buy a drink, that's
Yeah,
cool, but I'll buy you a drink back. But I don't want free,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
So-
I think I said this too last time. Especially when I was running a beer column,
Yeah.
I was going to the bars and the breweries, and they were going to give me a beer. But what I do, if I buy 2 for 1, I leave a huge tip.
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly, yeah.
just because that's
Back when I was the police reporter, and this is a long time ago, 35 years ago, I'd walk into a bar after, like, say I was covering some big bust, okay? And they said, Charlie, hey, we're all going to go out at the end of the day to, it's now Allen-Agus, Kennedy Station.
Oh, God, that's a while ago.
Yeah,
Charlie.
or even before that, it was Copper Kettle, whatever.
Yeah.
I said, all right,
Kennedy
I'll
Station's
I'll
my
meet you
time.
there because it's good source building.
Yeah.
I'd go there. Of course, I'd have a beer right in front of me.
Yeah.
So my boss at the time, who's long moved on to something else, said, okay, well, every time someone does that, just thank them, take it. Don't make a big thing about it.
Right.
But immediately buy them 2 more.
Yeah, gotcha.
So he's with another. Say you send one over to me, and you guys said, hey, cool. Hey, Nora, get them a couple on me too. I'm going to get it back.
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
reimbursed. Ellen, my wife, and I went to a restaurant right when we were coming out of the pandemic, and the owner,
Local place?
yeah, downtown. The owner recognized me, and because I had written about them for, I don't remember, it was like best, I don't know if it was Italian or pasta or desserts, I don't remember. But we were there eating, but this was on my own. We were there just as a nice dinner out Friday night, and he sends over some nice appetizer.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. It was. But I later said, hey, thanks, that was really nice, but make sure you put that on the bill. He said, no, that's from the kitchen. I said, well, I look on the menu. Okay, it was $23, let's say. I said, okay, just so you know, your waiter just got an additional $23.
Right. That's how I do it
and
too. Yeah.
Same
That's
with
good.
but even with like sandwich place. So what I do, I take a picture of what if I'm leaving cash of the bill and the cash that I'm leaving, just so I can add that onto my expense report, just so
Yeah.
my boss knows
Yeah.
that.
There's a place downtown that I get takeout a lot from, and the owner is always giving me the friends and family. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's also got a tip jar, so
Yeah,
I
you
just
gotta
make up
give
the
it.
friends and
Pay
family
it
difference
forward.
goes right into this.
I don't fault them. I don't fault them. I mean, and God love them. But Don and I are not going to write about you more or
better or worse,
or better
right,
or worse
yeah,
yeah.
if you give me a drink, because I'm going to drink anyway, and I'm going to eat anyway. So is Don. But we got to be honest about it. And plus, what I always tell a restaurant owner is, say, listen, I get paid and you get paid. So whatever I eat and drink, you deserve to be paid for it, just like I deserve to get paid for writing about it.
Right.
And because I get reimbursed for it, you reap the benefits of just that. So enjoy those benefits.
I like to tell people, there's a sign out front that says the brasserie on it. There's not a red cross next to it. This isn't a charity.
Exactly.
It's a for-profit
Yeah.
business. You have to make decisions.
Well, we get that a lot with people who sometimes, and we don't actually get to control this. Sometimes our stories are behind the paywall. And
Yeah,
we have nothing-
people-
we
that's
have-
one thing they
it
bitch
annoys.
about, yeah.
We have nothing to
and
do
we
with
have
that.
we can't control it. We have no control of virtually no control over it. But on the other hand, do people really think that Charlie and I are doing this for free? I mean, this is
Yeah,
our
people
job.
are paying.
We're
What's
two.
that?
We're
What's
two
it,
of the
50 bucks a month
we're
or
two of the
something?
senior most reporters there. I mean, we have 71 years
Yeah,
between
wow.
the two of us alone at this one newspaper. That is,
Yeah, I think I
for one
paid-
thing, that doesn't even happen anymore.
I think I pay $50 a month, maybe for the that's to get the paper delivered.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
access to, but $50 a month.
But I pay to get my paper delivered too.
yeah.
So
I had a buddy, Mike Dooling. who
Yeah, I
works
know
for us.
Mike.
You know, Mike Dools is a
course.
great guy. And when I lived in Central Square, I tried to get my paper delivered, and we'd be out. This is a while ago. We've lived in this house 15 years. And I'd go out, and they'd go, hey, do you want to? Yeah, I would love to get this shit in my paper. Just so you know, you fuckers can't get the paper delivered to my
Yeah.
house. And I go, do you know Mike Dooling? Oh, yeah. And I go, tell Dools, the fuckers can't get the paper to my house. And I would sign up. I signed up like 3 times, and they could never deliver the paper to my house in Central Square. And I would rag on him all the time. But he left, or
Yeah, he
now
retired.
he works.
Yeah.
He was working at SU for their paper for a while.
Yes, I think he
Dools
still
a
is.
great guy.
Yeah.
So is Jimmy, his brother Jimmy. He's a good guy.
yeah, but
I got of the course of time. Do you have like a role model when you were younger that you think helped you along your path, or a role model recently that helped you stay on the right path, or was it a
You mean as
teacher,
far
a
as-
loved one, a mentor, a role model?
This may not be the answer to your question, but this is something I think about a lot. Yes, there've always been older people I worked with, and there's some senior people. For an odd reason, there's some stuff going on at our office. For a long time, I used to sit down in a lower level with all the younger reporters, and then I moved up to the upstairs for no good reason and started
You hit an
hanging out.
age and they said-
Well, no, it was just for, I don't even remember
It's
why.
like we can sit wherever we want.
Yeah.
We don't have assigned desks.
No, we have signed us. So I was up there with the older people, and because of some work going on in our office, I'm back now, and I'm sitting every day near 3 or 4 people none of whom are over 25.
Right.
Wow.
I call them the little kids.
Yeah, we call it the kids' table. You know what? I love it. I love hanging out with them, listening to them.
Are they passionate about?
Oh
what they're
yeah,
doing? Oh, see,
they're
that's
passionate.
cool,
They're
man.
smart.
That's cool.
And I'm sitting there every day. I'm learning something from a 23-year-old.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And it's
But
really
they learn from us too. 'Cause
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
both done
Yeah.
what they're doing now.
I've learned from Michele. I
Well,
think she's
but
learned from
we
me,
are,
yeah.
but so that's a very, very good question
Yeah.
because, I mean, I learned from Don. I always have for the last 35 years.
I
But-
taught him everything he knows.
yeah, and I took that and did it right. So, but so these little kids who I like, one of them I brought to Les Melanges with us last week.
Oh, nice.
Because I mean, they're young.
You think that was their
The perspective is
go-to?
just different
she,
sometimes.
she's not going to go out to a nice meal.
She's not going to go to a $150 meal every
Exactly.
day. No.
Yeah.
So I brought her with my wife and another friend, and she just thought she was on top
Oh,
of the
that's
world.
cool.
That's
she
awesome.
thought,
Yeah.
and then I took her to Kitty Hoynes after that, and we just worked the bar. We had such a good time, and she's telling everyone about it. And for one thing, like staffing, I want her to stay.
Right.
I
Right,
want
yeah,
these
yeah.
kids to stay.
Yeah.
This is a very transient business. Journalism is a very transient business.
Really?
I would have.
People come
Well,
and go all
Don
the
and
time.
I both thought we'd be here a year, and then we'd go on to the Washington Post. Well, but then
But they stay in the industry.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It used
absolutely.
to be much more of a thing where you start at a small paper, then a medium paper, then
Yeah.
then if you're lucky, you go to a big paper. And we all thought we were going to do that, and for whatever reason, we didn't. But even I mean, we have a lot of turnover in staff, and a lot of times it's because we have how many people do we have now? Jason, Christine Lohman. We have like 3 people who are now at the Washington Post.
More than that.
Wow.
Just recent
And then a
years.
bunch of and some at New York Times,
Yeah.
or ESPN, or
Yeah,
whatever.
sports.
That-
we had a great young sports reporter, brilliant, doing a great job. He's now covering the Detroit Pistons for the Detroit News.
Wow.
I mean, so people do move.
They get picked up. Like,
He got picked up. He went from the minor leagues to the major
That's
leagues.
not an answer
Pete
I
Thamel.
would have expected from you, but it makes a lot of sense. Is that when you say do you have a role model, a mentor, somebody that inspires you? I can say, I mean, what the things Michele does is kind of inspiring. I'm old, right? I would never take the risks and the chances today that you're
Right.
taking now. But when you guys who've been doing this a long time, you didn't say, "Oh my gosh, I was always inspired by Walter Cronkite" or whatever. You're inspired or driven maybe by the
we
new
were.
people
We
coming
were.
in.
I mean, look, I'm old enough to like when I was deciding I wanted to go to journalism school. It was in the late '70s, so Woodward and Bernstein were still. I mean,
Really?
well, or should say. Robert Redford and
Yeah,
Dustin
yeah.
Hoffman were still a big thing.
Yeah.
And so, did I want to be Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman? Of course. That's what I wanted
But
to do.
that's
you
cool
know,
that your answer is that you take some joy out of taking somebody that maybe would have never gone to Les Melanges or
Yeah.
never maybe got the experience that you can give them, taking them to Kitty Hoynes and seeing their face light up or that's pretty cool.
But so my mom's a journalist as well. She
Holy
she
cow.
still is. And she, and
Talk about
boy,
checking your paper.
But so I learned a lot from her. But she always said you can always teach other people, and so that's why I teach at Newhouse. But the kids today that we just want them to stay, and we did news for so long that even if there's a news story, like the story today that Don broke on another restaurant closing, but how they had gotten all this government money, that was good reporting. Even when we have to do an occasional breaking news shift where we cover the police. I can do that and show them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that? So every once in a while we have to pull a thing. We do a cop shift. I mean, Charlie had to cover a horrible murder a couple of years ago.
last year.
We do, the funnier thing was the last time I did a holiday shift was Memorial Day, and you know what my big story was? Richard Gere was eating at Possibilities.
Nice.
right.
That's a good big story, but it happened to coincide.
It happened to coincide.
Who do you mentor or role model? Did I ask this before on here?
No, so you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. I mean, it's like a cop out to say your parents.
No,
Why-
I don't think
why is
so.
that?
When you're
Well-
with your
But
parents?
see, you followed your parents into the line
Yeah.
of work they were
Yeah.
in, so you know.
Yes, I do think that, but I do have to say, and I don't mean to steal your answer, but I have people who are around my age and younger than me really stepping it up here at the Brasserie, and it gives me new life and okay, like I love this industry, like let's just kill it today. So I do feel like
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. I
Yeah.
mean, but listen, you grew up in your father's bar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he and I were probably at the end of the bar drinking there and eating
Yeah.
eating the
I
stew
was.
on,
Yeah.
I think it was Thursdays. Oh, that was so good. Remember,
Yeah.
they would have hot lunches there every day in the wintertime.
Yeah.
That was the best. And fish on Friday. You were
That's-
probably
That's
growing
pretty cool that
up
it's
there.
younger, not older, that you'd be inspired by. That's pretty cool.
Well,
I
you
mean,
can be
clearly this
inspired by
place is-
everybody.
Yes.
You're-
Hannah is stepping it up so well. She's
She is. So
face
my
of the place right now. Your
yeah,
sister Hannah.
my sister just graduated with a journalism degree from St. Bonaventure,
Oh, nice.
and she just went through News 21 that program, but she serves for me now. And I would say she's probably one of my inspirations too,
That's pretty
because
cool.
she
We got a couple of St. Bonaventure grads working at the paper.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
she is one of those people who doesn't think that she's going to stay in Syracuse. So
Well, you never know.
Nicknames.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a nickname growing up that you got, and how'd you get it?
Well, yeah, I mean, DC was one, Kaz. Although what happened was my brother, who was 8 years younger than me, decided that he was going to be Kaz, not me. So I had to, but yeah, nothing.
Well, I call you that because I don't know how. I never
Well,
remember.
right,
how to
exactly.
say your
Nobody knows
last
how
name.
to. Nobody knows how to pronounce my name anyway. So yeah.
Kaz.
Yeah.
DC.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What about you, Charlie?
You know,
Chuck.
yeah, people. But you know what? No, growing up, no one ever called me Chuck until the first day of college, and I don't know, we were doing shots of something, and they said, good old Chuck," because I had never drank before, and it was.
He used to have a
That didn't go over
cartoon
well.
on his when we had cubicles, and it was one of those old cartoons. It said it was a butcher counter, and it said Charles steak, $10.99 a pound, Chuck steak, $1.99 a pound.
Oh, that's funny. That's pretty
true.
funny. That's pretty funny. Yeah. We had John Tamino on. We asked him what his Nick. John's a really inspiring guy. We're actually going to do a podcast, and the next
good.
one we
That's
do,
good, yeah.
I think we asked
Oh, yeah.
John. I mean, what do you do? You guys drive around.
Yeah.
When you see somebody who maybe has a need, it looks homeless on the corner. What do you do? Do you drive by? Do you stop?
everybody drives by. It's okay
Everybody
to say
drives
you drive
by.
But you know, we work downtown, so you're walking by them. It's a lot harder just to walk by.
Yeah,
it
And,
is.
You know, so it depends. I mean, I will stop and give somebody something sometimes, but
We
you
didn't know what to do.
Look, you
Michelle
can't
asked
do that when the same guy's
Yeah.
at the same corner every
Yeah,
single
they-
day. You know,
yeah.
But we asked Michelle.
So I
asked,
said, yeah. So he said to put together these kits that have like socks, hand warmers, like sanitizing wipes and everything.
so I went out and did it.
Bud
I
did
saw
it.
that. I
And
saw that on
I've given
Facebook.
out. I think I made 8 of them. I have 3 left. My first one, I was like, "Hi," and he's like, "Hey, is this something you'd want?" Okay, thanks. I was nervous to give it out. I was very nervous. And now the last one, I play basketball downtown at Horn on Sunday mornings, and there's a guy always sitting there, African American guy who's always on the corners, full of energy. He's always,
Yeah.
hey. So I said, "Hey, how you doing, man? My name is Bud." And I can't remember what he said his name was. I said, "Hey, it's a little cold out today." Yeah, yeah. And I said, "Would this be something you'd be interested in?" "Oh, man, thank you." So it makes you feel good
sure.
to do that. But we asked John his nickname, and he said when he was younger, they used to call him Hollywood. And I said,
that's
"Hollywood?" And he goes, "Yeah, when you're younger, they used to go out partying and drinking." He grew up
On Tip Hill.
on Tip Hill,
Yeah.
and they'd always end up crashed out at somebody's house. And they'd wake up, and he had a big full head of hair then, and he said he'd wake up and his hair would be fucking perfect. After waking up in the morning, they'd go, "Hollywood." And he said, "Now I don't have any hair. So it's all gone." So that's funny.
I wish I had perfect hair.
What was
All
my
right,
other-
before you do,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
going to ask now. So where is your favorite spots to go
See,
can't you
that's
say
too
it?
general.
for drinking if you're going to have a beer?
I have a route. I have a
okay.
route.
What's the route?
And it changes every week. I mean, it changes every day. I don't go to every place in one day, but I usually, and because I got to go to Steve's every week on Tip Hill to pay my pill pool, and I like the little, what 10-ounce glasses,
7 ounce.
yeah,
drafts.
of the Miller Lights,
Yep.
Charlie Miller Lights,
Chuck Miller. Yeah.
and I'll go to Swallows oftentimes to get wings, and pay my pill pool there. It's generally on the west side, and usually on Fridays I might hit Coleman's. That's why I can't wait for your place to open up.
Right.
And on the way home I'll hit Chelsea's almost always, just because that is on my way home.
It's funny because he's west side. I live in
You're
Mercer,
east.
so my east. So I always say what he does with Chelsea's, I might do with Wiley's, and what he does with
I got to go there.
Riley's and
So
Scotch
good.
and Sirloin is another one. I don't hardly ever go to the steakhouse part, but at this time of year when they got that fire pit going,
Yeah.
I
Sit in the bar.
love hanging out in Scotch. I love hanging out in Riley's.
Tom's
you know-
figuring it out. That place took some challenges.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure it out. You
Yeah.
know.
So but I mean, I think I've said long enough. If I knew this was my last night in Syracuse, I'd probably go to dinner at Pasta's and then go drinking at Kitty Hines. That's probably what I would
Yeah.
do.
Well,
but,
The other
Say-
question is how to
yeah.
modify your question is maybe because I get this. Somebody's coming in out of town. My niece has got her boss. She works for she's an HR manager for Suburban Propane. She said, my boss is coming into town. He wants something really nice. Where can we go to dinner? So I have to give her some places to go to dinner, and it needs to be really nice. Well, there's probably 4 or 5 or half a dozen what you would call 4-star restaurants in Syracuse. This guy's from California.
Oh, okay.
And so I have to suggest somebody's coming into town and say, hey, man, we're going out to have a beer. Where do you tell them to go? Where would you tell them? One of those places?
Well, yeah, but
see,
see-
and also I go to Blarney Stone. The Blarney Stone.
I do-
I
I
go to
do-
the Blarney
I
Stone
do-
every week.
Shifties is a good place
I
to
do
go.
that.
Shifties,
Yeah, I love their wings, but
Brasserie.
yeah,
Melissa's working.
but see, now that's where we go on my own time, like when I'm already home. I have lunch at Kitty Hoynes at least once a week, and
What do you get?
I usually I always get their soup because their soups are always fantastic, and whatever sandwich. But I think he's got some of the best fish.
Shepherd's pie. I get the
shepherd-
shepherd pie there, and I get the
shepherd's pie
shepherd's
is-
pie at Coleman's, and I can't tell which one's better because every time I go to one, they always say, "It's mine," but yours is great, Dennis. And, David, yours is great
Right.
too. But
You were talking about the 4-star restaurants, and it's funny when Charlie went last week to Le Melange. There's the famous New York chef Eric Repair.
Yeah.
Bernardine
Yeah,
was
yes,
there,
I know.
He was sitting right next to me.
He did.
No
This was
shit.
his circuit. He did that place. He did Lemongrass. He did. Did he do St. Urban? He did St. Urban.
Yeah, the next
I mean, he
one.
went to the
those are the places you
4-star.
would go.
I don't know if he went to
Arid would be up there.
Maybe.
about
I don't know
He
if
just
he
had
went.
a
Eden,
drink. He
you
just
gotta go
had
to
a
Eden.
Right.
yeah,
He just had
so
a
good.
drink, and he likes that place too.
Yeah.
He just had a drink at Le Melange. He didn't even know about it. He just happened
Wow.
to be walking it because his son goes to school at SU.
But that's not my if I'm going out for a drink, I
No,
don't have
I'm
anything
not
against
gonna-
those places.
You're
I'm
not a
going-
fancy person.
No,
I
I don't want to order that
Yeah,
foo-foo
yeah.
stuff.
no, I mean,
It's
I
not
mean,
foo-foo
Yeah.
stuff.
we go to Kitty Hoyne for
I
Guinness
always end up there.
and Coleman's for Guinness. I mean,
I
all
tell
the
the
time.
story.
I go to Kitty Hoynes for the Irish whiskey, but that's
When
Oh,
Kevin
yeah, that's-
when Kevin Gentili had his place down on Burnett, I would go in there, and Kevin's a great guy, one of the most talented guys around. And I would go in and he'd be, "Oh, Bud, I'm going to make you something special." And I'd go in for lunch. What do you? I got this chicken with this, foo for this and this parmesan, blah, 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 and I'm like, "Dude, I just want a fucking hamburger and fries, man. I don't want all that
Dude,
fancy
you're
shit."
not coming down to Emerald because I feel like you're gonna be like, I want chicken tenders. And
I don't eat chicken tenders. My God, I'm a salad guy now. I'm down 19 pounds.
Wow, good
in the
for
last
you.
6
Good
weeks.
for you.
Yeah, still fat, but yeah.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Well, before we jump, the one thing I just noticed, and we're talking about Kitty Hoynes and lunch, you asked, and then you said the Irish whiskey. The one thing I noticed, and I don't know if this is maybe just the crew that's hanging out in the places that I hang out, but more people seem to have a drink with lunch. I think now than
Really?
than they
Used to be, lunch was big.
Yeah,
People
the
go
old-
down
the
and pop
old-
a couple
the
and go
old
back to
5
work.
martini lunches.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
When I
And then
worked
it
in
stopped.
Chicago in the 80s, and that was the heyday of the 5 martini lunch.
Yeah.
Everybody was just
Go back to work. You can't do that now. Well, there's nobody going
well,
out to work.
I feel like the opposite happened. People stopped drinking for lunch for a while, but now people almost every single table for our lunches gets cocktails.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Wow.
now I think
it stopped for a while. Now it's back.
Right. Now, maybe I say that because oftentimes I'm out writing about food and I have to write about drinks too. So I'll oftentimes get one. None of us get stupid.
No. I haven't drank in 5 weeks either.
Well,
What?
That's your
I had
problem.
one beer for my buddy's 65th birthday.
No wonder you're all over the place. Your equilibrium's off.
I know,
You're
it's tough.
fucking
but I
all
feel
this
better.
stuff up. Oh,
But
good for you.
yeah.
Good for
Oh, yeah, you told me that.
I went out for a Halloween party to Lock One. Place, you guys ever been to Lock One?
Yeah, yeah.
Place is amazing. The great Halloween party, great band. Frank and Eshy were playing. We had fun. Everybody's dressed up, and I didn't drink at all. A couple buddies were like, "Bud, you're drinking soda?" I'm like, "Yeah." My buddy Hanson's like, "I'm gonna buy your wife a drink, but I'm not buying you a fucking soda." No way. So nobody would buy me a soda.
Right.
So, well, you always have one last question you'd like to ask them.
Yeah. So are we done with the questions? Are you done?
Well, I had one more. I mean, what's your favorite movie?
Oh yeah, your weird, not your weird questions, your personal questions.
That's hard. Probably The Godfather, but
I dig that's mine, Godfather. I like the loyalty part, the family part.
you know what? One of the in middle of COVID, when I'm stuck at home not doing anything, I read the book.
Oh my gosh.
Awful. The book is awful.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you watch the show?
I want to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
That's a case where the movie is way better.
The movie
there's
about the
movie
movie?
about the making, or not making.
Really
of it,
good
but how-
because they talk about how it's not a mafia movie. It's a family movie. It's a movie
Right.
about family. And it is.
Right.
Well, there were things in the book that are just like, I'm like, really? You're doing this? No.
Oh, jeez. What about you? What's favorite?
Oh boy, probably Hoosiers, just because.
Great movie,
just-
Indiana. Great
just
movie.
because.
I've seen that movie 100. You been to the gym? I asked you
Yeah,
this.
because
Oh my
I mean
gosh,
I'm
we've
from
been
there,
there.
and that was
Do you like Breaking Away too?
not really. That's I think a
love
really.
it.
That's a
I
good
think
movie, too.
I
love
don't think
Breaking
that's. I don't think it was that good of a movie.
Sorry.
John Tomino told us his favorite movie was.
I don't know. I can't
You
remember.
don't remember? It's
There's
a Wonderful Life.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I believe it.
She's never seen it.
No.
I'll bring
fucking
bring
I
it to
know.
you.
How do you want?
Although you probably don't have a DVD player.
No, I've never seen The Godfather either.
Oh my
my God.
god!
We do this every time.
Oh my God.
I know.
Michelle.
You know, it's funny.
I'm not a movie person or like a quality TV show person. I go home and I watch trashy TV so that my brain shuts off.
That's okay.
So
I get that. I get that.
I'm not.
Working when I was at the table a couple of years ago, when I was sitting with the young people, we always had these conversations. Like we would talk about Seneca Falls being Bedford Falls,
Yes,
and,
yeah.
and these people are like, "What's Bedford Falls? I never heard of it."
Oh my
So,
god!
but one of my favorite things about that was the day 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was, that Gene Wilder died.
Yeah.
And we had a headline, because everything's instant, so on the homepage, it says, Willy Wonka star Gene Wilder dies. And I'm like, really? That's the movie you guys think of? when
Oh
you
my
think of
God,
Gene Wilder?
Willy-
I'm thinking about Young Frankenstein and
Yes.
the producer,
Oh, yeah.
and
it's
all those Richard Pryor movies. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would never have
Stir
thought Willy
Crazy.
Wonka.
Stir
And all-
Crazy's
Yeah,
classic.
Stir Crazy.
I
And
just watched
all the then 20-somethings were like, well, the only thing we've ever seen him in is Willy Wonka.
Willy
And I'm like,
Wonka,
I've never
yeah.
seen Willy Wonka. What are you talking
What's the
about?
best Gene Wilder movie?
Well, I love Young Frankenstein. But
Blazing
Blazing
Saddles.
Saddles. Blazing
Yeah.
Saddles.
Which
yeah.
you can't even fucking air that movie today.
No, right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh my god, it's
I know.
hilarious.
I
Ever seen
know.
Blazing
And you
Saddles?
know that Richard Pryor wrote that movie?
No way.
Yeah, Richard
was
Pryor
it
wrote
Cleavon Little or whatever? Was
No,
it?
well, Richard Pryor wrote it. It was supposed to be Richard Pryor in it, but Richard Pryor was not a stable
Yes,
character.
yes.
So
Oh my
they,
God, that's
they
the best-
and
that's the
Cleavon
best.
Little was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Best.
so-
Hands down.
But I just heard. Did you know that? Okay, so Mel Brooks in his contract had a clause that said he had final approval on edits. He said you cannot release the movie unless I say. So the studio said, "This is great. You got to cut the bonfires. You got to cut the farting scene."
Yeah. What? Of all the scenes in the movie, they cut the farting scene?
No, they
But
didn't.
no,
cut
they
it.
didn't
cut it.
because he said, "Okay, thanks for your suggestion." He said, "No fucking way."
But that's the only scene I wanted
That's
to cut.
that's the only
There's
scene.
some really real stuff that you cannot
Cannot
say.
do
No.
anymore,
What?
no.
Which one is this?
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles.
Yeah,
That's a good movie.
There's it's completely off topic, but Mel Brooks. Sometimes a genius is not a genius because Gene Wilder wrote most of Young Frankenstein.
Really?
Yeah. So, and Gene Wilder wrote and wanted to do the scene where he and the monster are doing the putting on the
Yeah,
Ritz.
yeah.
And Mel Brooks was like, that was a case where he was like, that is not ever being a movie. It's really
Oh my God, that's the thing everybody remembers.
Everybody remembers that, but Mel Brooks originally didn't want that in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
So even a genius can have a bad day.
Yeah.
I've had bad days. So what's your question for them? I like your question.
So if people were to take away one thing about you from this, or that you just want to be known for, what would it be?
I remember your answer from last time.
Oh, really? What was it?
Boy, I
do you
don't
remember
even
that?
remember getting that
Yeah.
question.
Steel trap
That's
here.
fucking wild.
You mean professionally or personally or?
whatever you feel?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like people to know that I wasn't an asshole. I mean, what?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Saying, I mean, we're both very, very fair, but I mean, I'm a happy person. Maybe because
Yes,
I have the best fucking job in Syracuse. I go around and eat and drink and get paid for it, and I find the best stuff. And Syracuse is blessed, or Central New York
agree,
is
man. I agree.
absolutely blessed
Yeah.
with great restaurants and bars, and I get to enjoy it. So I mean, boy, what do I want to be known for?
You're at your funeral.
Having fun?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody knows
yeah.
that you had fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, no one will ever argue that. Lord knows.
Good.
I come home every night, and my wife says, "Jesus Christ, Charlie, you what, out having fun again?"
Yeah, my
I
wife
said, "Well,
asks me
how
that,
long
so-
we've been married? 31 years.
Yeah.
Am I any different now than I was then? No.
Don's answer before was something about beer and how you like beer or doing beer or being known to be a beer connoisseur.
Yeah, I mean, I there was a time when I
something you're proud of.
Yeah, well, you know, I was
Oh, yeah.
doing a beer column for the Post Standard. I think this is what I told you then. I was written up in the Wall Street Journal in 1995 or something for being one of the first regular beer writers in an American newspaper.
Before craft beer
Before,
was
but-
even
yeah, when it was
anything.
just
Yeah.
started,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And if I had known then what I know now, you know, I would have like really like gone into that big time. But I still thought of it as something I do on the side. But now there are
Ouch.
full-time professional
Yeah.
beer writers. You know,
you have to have craft beer
yeah.
in a
Yeah.
place.
Although
Even-
craft beer, the whole craft beer thing is sort of morphing into something that I don't recognize at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. With the seltzers and everything. The-
Hey,
Well, but even just traditional cocktails, I mean, well, yeah, I can still come in here and get an old fashioned, but the stuff that you guys churn out for I mean, the seasonal cocktails, which are phenomenal, and I love all of them.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Thank you.
Are you
that's
guys doing
changing
it?
the
Are you
way
guys-
that's changing the way we consume
Yeah.
beverages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing the Negroni with the prosecco?
No, I haven't done it yet. I was like,
It
thinking
actually
of-
sounds pretty good.
I know. I'm like, I want to go and get it, but I do think our customer base is a little bit older, so I don't know how many.
But you know,
how
I
much-
discovered that was actually invented in the 70s and sort of like
Yeah.
you know, and it just blew up 2
Be-
weeks ago
because of the Game of Thrones thing. So I'm like, I don't know how much.
did you see the video of us at Lock One? Jim Lynch, who's the manager out there, bought a smoke machine. So they take a butterscotch whiskey that Jim Lynch makes. And
I've had it.
and they put it in this smoker thing, and they hook a thing up to it. It was really funny. They
That's
hook this
really
thing up,
popular
and it
now.
smokes.
Yeah.
And then you open it up. And there's
That's
a younger
what Melange
bartender.
is doing.
That's what Melange.
Yeah.
Well, they do the same thing.
It's
They
funny
did
when
it
I
with
saw that in
their-
Melange because it's funny because that seems to me a trend that I remember from about 10 years ago. That boomed
think
and then
it's-
it
That's how my
busted.
brother has his old fashions. It's
I mean,
like-
I went to. You ever been to Wildflowers at Turning Stone? 10 years ago, they were doing all that smoke and this and that and all this hot fried ice cream and all.
Oh, yeah.
And there was like this big trend that seemed like it. And then I'm looking at Melange as like bringing that stuff kind of
Yeah.
back.
Well, this was cool to watch the whole setup. What was even funnier, so the bartenders there are in their mid 40s, and Jim's my age, whatever. So they show it, and it's like a little attachment you hook to this box, and you put the drink in the box after you make it, and you hook it up, and you hit the smoke, and the smoke comes out of the box,
Yep.
and you open it up, and they undo it. So they're telling this younger bartender there, the whole setup's there, and they're like, "What do you think of this thing? Check it out." And she's like, so she grabs the end of it, and she goes, she thought it was a fucking bong, and you took a hit off of it. Which was hilarious because that shows you the difference in,
my
in
God.
age. She thought it was something you
Interesting.
hit,
Yeah.
instead of. But. That's a good place to end, I guess. So
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
coming
you guys
on.
so
Yeah,
much.
it
Thanks
was
for
good
having us
talking to you.
anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anytime. We love what we do.
awesome.